liking the chair. All right, so we're starting the muscle system today. Intention of today's presentation is a little bit like we had with the skeleton, and then we started to address the skeleton with or Alex with tendons and exploring joint by joint and tendon by tendon. So today we will look at principles in the muscle system and some of the paradigms that we can use in our teaching and to better understand the muscle system. Okay, and then tomorrow and the following sessions we will go into each of the areas of the body, like the muscles in the leg, the muscles in hip, trunk. We'll actually visit the trunk a little bit today, the arms and so on. So, the role of the muscle system. Most of us take a lot of these things for granted, but it has a lot of responsibility. Movement. Movement is not only walking or lifting weights or picking things up. It's also moving your digestive system. It's moving your breath. Right? So movement means a lot more than just moving around. Stability and posture. Some of the muscles are here just to make sure that we are standing up, or that we are walking straight. So the bone is responsible for our form, right? And then also to help the muscle system with distributing the weight. But without the muscles, we would just fall like a sack of bone on the floor, right? Heat production. So the blood is producing heat. The respiratory system is heating air. The muscles are also producing heat. So it's also part of the heat production.
Is this burning energy or the heat production in the muscles? Is this?
Yeah. So when they work, when you start sweating, right?
They use energy and then it's.
They use energy and they release.
Release heat.
Yeah. Circulation. Not everyone are aware that actually our muscles are helping the blood circulation. Right? So if you notice, sometimes if you are laying still for a while, right, then you feel like, I need to move my ankles. So especially the legs have an important role in helping the blood circulate. Right? So the muscle spasms are helping to pump the blood around in the body and out of the muscles. That's actually a very important thing, otherwise you will get blood clots and things. Like after my surgery and not using my leg, I was told that it's very important that you keep, lifting, flexing, plantar flexion, rotating your ankle to keep the blood circulation moving on. Mm. Respiration. So we have muscles that are helping us to breathe, right? So without the muscles around the lungs, we will not be able to breathe at all. Digestion, mention it, movement. So movement in the intestines.
Yeah.
Protection, so protecting the spine, right? So from traumas, right? So you have like this core that activates. I think we have some more insights on the next slide. Communication. I didn't think about that before I actually made this presentation, but it's also, you're using your facial muscles to communicate, right?
To smile.
To smile, to show that you're sad or and speak. We know it coming, the sound production comes from the vocal cord. But without the tongue, without the lips, without reshaping the mouth, we wouldn't make strange sounds. Huh? We would have a really strange language. Okay. I thought I had another slide. Sorry. Questions or thoughts before we move on? I think we will come back to all of these things later on. So why and what do we care about? We care about everything, but as yoga teachers and in our business, some of the stuff are more important to understand than other. Of course, facial expressions, chanting could kind of be important to speak and understand the facial muscles. But protection, the protection using our core muscles, for example, doing vinyasas, avoiding injuries, understanding, if we see a student who are not engaging the core, we know that, okay, we can face an injury if we don't correct this. We want to build our own and our students' postures healthy, and we want to balance the system, right? So if we have a tight muscle here, like we were talking about with the tendons, the muscles are also pulling on the skeleton. So if you're in imbalance with the muscles, it's also creating a kinetic chain of imbalances in the rest of the body. We were talking about the blood circulation as well, right? If we don't have nice and toned muscles, then also the blood circulation will notice an effect on it. Right? Increasing endurance is something that I am especially interested in, right? Because I see so many students that are just struggling with their endurance just because they don't understand how to connect, how to use their muscles, how to use their breath, and so on. And not at least understand the target of some of the asanas from a muscle perspective, of course. Alright, so okay, in this pose, what muscles are we actually targeting to use? It has an effect on endurance, but it also has an effect on the kinetic chain. if you're using the wrong muscles over a long time, that build up imbalances. Right? Anything else you can think of? It's not limited to this list.
I think we should care about the muscle because our body is designed to move, and the muscle is to help to move the skeleton. So the health of the muscle is very important if we want a healthy body. Because a healthy body is we have to move. The day that we stop moving, it means that a lot of problems will come. We can see that in our grandma, when people growing old, and when they stop moving, and then all the disease comes. So for a healthy body, healthy muscle is very important.
General health, it's not just the body, right? We've talked about the neurosystem, the endocrine system, so it also affects our well-being, right?
The point balance with the systems, I think this is very important, that the muscles, they are helping you to balance everything. Like you say, if it's not healthy, then you will start, So it's not just balance the body to stand up, it is also kind of balance all the other systems we have learned about, and you say balance, so it's also not to tip over, getting too much muscles, getting too much focus on one area, but try to keep everyone in balance at the same what do you say, the same level. What do you say, equanimity, was it?
Equanimous is more than
Equality.
Equality, So,
It's like if you have, we speak about, if you have too strong trunk and weak back, right? That creates an imbalance, affecting the skeleton, affecting your movement, affecting your ligaments, affecting your cell reproduction, like because you might have a bad posture, so reproduction of cell, and all these things.
And I think this is creating your endurance. When everything is balanced, then you will have this endurance because then it's just flowing.
Yeah, I heard about these tribes in, I think it was Africa, somewhere, where they could, run for several days in a row. Just running.
Without shoes, without anything, just running.
And that has to mean that, something, they discovered something in their system that the rest of us...
just have a tiger chasing you.
But if I run better, my hips will hurt. It doesn't matter if I run in nature, or on soft or hard ceramic. But they won't.
No, they don't have any
The hips are just, rolling, and if you look at it as wheels, it's just wheels that is going around, and then another wheel is fitting in, and
So something. I remember when I'm running a lot, and then when I see the physiotherapy, they said that my muscle developed so much in the front, less in the back. So that is why I had some.
That's why you are using your.
I had to retraining. So balance is important.
Just noticed that. It was not set up to capture the discussion well enough. Let me see if I can fix this. And it should be fixed. So that's also a place where we as yoga teachers might help other athletes to get in balance, which they will have a benefit of in their if they're professional athletes, etc. Okay, let me move to the next one. Paradigms. So some useful paradigms and concepts, and maybe I'm misusing the words. But let's talk a little bit about some of the roles some of the muscles have. So we're talking about stabilizing muscles, and we're talking about mobilizing muscles. So the stabilizers, they are typically stabilizing the body in whole. That could be just to keep you straight up. And we have stabilizers of joints, that works in conjunction with other movements to make sure that your knee, for example, is stable, that your spine is stable. And this is typically the smaller muscles, which is close to your skeleton, the closest to the skeleton, or innermost layer. So a sample here is the transverse abdominis. We have more transverse, but this is, the inner abdominal muscle.
Yeah, but this is not a small one, so it's not only the small one.
Well, smaller. It's typical smaller. If you go into to smaller parts of your body, in the spine, for example, then we have some small ones. The diaphragm is also helping to stabilize. So, but it's not a small one, so there are exceptions.
Yeah, because those who are at the very deep inside, these are. Yeah.
So we'll come back to the transverse, but actually, it's a large muscle when we include the tendons. But actually, the muscle fiber itself is
you can break it up
very,
to
very,
small
very,
parts.
very little, right?
Yeah, I get it.
And since they are also the muscles with more endurance, we can also learn how to take advantage of them, right? The mobilizers, their responsibility is to move body parts, right? That would be if you want to kick your leg, right? If you want to show off your beach muscles, lift something from the wall, catch if you're falling. They typically just need to engage in a shorter period of time, right? On and on. Already mentioned, they work in conjunction with stabilizers. Right? We will also see how that happens later on with kinetic chains. Any other thoughts, questions? What is a sample of stabilizer in the body?
The muscle.
Yeah.
So usually the muscle that is big, and big on the superficial muscle, the muscle that you can see, usually is a stabilized muscle. The muscle that is under, the one that you cannot see with the eyes, you have to feel it. This is the core.
Yeah, that would probably mean opposite.
Okay.
Right, so the stabilizer is the one which is close to the skeleton, right? To keep your form.
But for example, in the one that in the quadricep,
Yeah, that's a mover, right? That's the one that is responsible to move your.
Yeah. It's the opposite, yeah.
Stabilizer is those who are around a joint, for instance, so the joint will not sort of keep the ligament doing its job, and but also what we call the core muscles. This is this must be stabilizers, yeah. Yeah.
Some of them, or most of them have a stabilizing rotor. Some of them are also considered as a core muscle, but their main function is movement. A sample of that would be your six-pack, right? It is considered to be a core muscle. It's on the top layer. It is a booster, right? Because you can't sustain the contraction of that muscle for a very long period of time. Right? So the stabilizers are typically the muscles that can sustain their contraction over a large amount of time. They will typically be fed on something other than carbs, right? So they would typically get their energy from oxygen and other things. Okay, I'll move to the next one. Now we're talking about deep muscles and superficial muscles, right? So deep muscles are also those who are close to the structure. Again, they are can also be close to the organs to protect the organs. Like the transverse, for example. It's also there to protect your intestines and your organs inside of the belly. Lungs, they're protected by the rib cage, right? Like you could feel the other day when you were feeling my spine, right? That means that there's nothing really protecting whatever is inside of our belly. So then we need some strong muscle layers there. Some of them are also protecting the organs from, bones or other structural things in our body. From, coming to damage it. Right. Typical high endurance, like if we pull in the belly, it's easier to hold that for a long time than crunching for a long time. Superficial muscle, typically larger in size than the deep one. They are more powerful and they burn a lot of energy in one go. Typically, that means they are more fed on, and this varies from person to person, of course, but they're also more fed on carbs and nutrients than the oxygen. And obviously, the opposite, they can't sustain that for a very long time. Like you contract it, and when it's contracted, and depending on the muscle, and depending on your way of feeding energy to the muscle, you might sustain that for if you lift weights.
To have a lift,
right? Then you might only do 10, right? Now after 10 there is no more. And you need to relax a little bit and the blood needs to produce new energy in the muscle, and then you can continue for another 10 rounds, repetitions. Okay?
I think this is very important for the yoga endurance, that you are aware of which muscles you actually are using, because if you should learn to do this 90 minutes practice with a lot of vinyasa, if this is not going to be a very tough exercise, then you have to use the right muscles. Because if you are using the superficial muscles like, handstand and vinyasa, then then you will get injured and you will never get the endurance to actually be able to do it. Yeah.
So yeah,
This
you're
is
right.
very
So
important.
if you
Yeah.
use this, and I actually like one of my teachers, Tim's explanation of some of the superficial muscles. That is like it's a booster.
Yeah.
And so it's like in the car,
Yeah.
when you use the turbo, right? You get the turbo for a little moment to get quickly up in speed, and then it flats out and you keep going, right? The thing is, and especially with the way that we are working with the muscles, we go to the gym and we focus on working with the boosters, meaning that our body become conditioned to mainly use boosters, and then these are our main muscle for everything we do, right? I remember I knew a guy, he actually changed occupation because he was doing bodybuilding. And isolating, right? Making these muscles become large, big, and beautiful. And he couldn't sustain a work day as an electrician. So when he were, working on the ceiling, he got what we call pump in the muscle, right? So he couldn't sustain for a long period of time to change a light bulb or do things with his arms above the head, because his deadlights were burning and out of energy after.
That has been a big learning for me in handstand. I know I'm not there yet, but still, because I was trying to do it with the boosters, the handstand, because you have seen everywhere, and we can't find the balance. I can't find out how to bear the weight, and when I start, integrating more and more of my core muscles, then so now when I'm almost there, I'm using the boosters. If I get a little out of balance, then you can use the boosters to activate you, to get into the line again, so you can activate your cores, and then I lose balance again, and then I can kind of boost it a little, and then I will get into place again. So, work in progress, but I think,
Another place where you notice it, especially when people first start doing yoga, is in Warrior 2 or Warrior 1, right? Whenever the find breath here, they start to shake, right? And then, finally. And then next one, right? And by the end of the class, their shoulders are so sore that, to them it feels like they've been to the gym 5 days in a row without a break, right?
Yeah, I think also it's very important when you teach different students. So, for example, if you teach a runner, the one who do triathlon, ski, and do a lot of run, you can see right away that when they are, because they are supposed to use the superficial muscles for so long, so many years. So if you teach people who are used to those muscles, you have to be patient with them, or at least teach them about doing those kind of muscles. Or otherwise, see the strong runner and they come to class and then they're shaking even in Warrior 1 or Warrior 2, but it doesn't mean that they are weak, right? But it's they use a different kind of muscle. So how to approach different kind of student with teaching them how to use their muscle.
So we say in yoga that we want to work on the deep muscles, right? Which is both right and wrong, right? We want to work on those, and we want to balance the use of them. Right? Use them for the right purpose. So you were talking about handstand, right? That's one place where you use your booster, and then you allow the deep muscles to take over, right?
Yeah, so the use is this just a spark, actually. This
It is to, to get into the
to
position,
get
right?
into it, or
If we're doing a warrior one, right?
Yeah.
You might use the booster to get your arms there, and then you want to allow the deeper muscles to take over so that you can sustain.
Yeah. Also,
Yeah. So the thing is, when you use the booster for a lot of time, then you are also, or the booster is also telling your deep muscles that, now I'm working here, so you can
I have control.
relax a little bit,
yeah.
right? So why don't we try that actually once? We can do it in something as simple as a warrior. If you come here, I can. Right, so if you go into a warrior 2 stance, right? Now let's work a little bit with the boosters. Push up and up, down, up, pull up, and down. Relax them a little bit. Relax them a little bit. There, up again. Pull them up, down, and pull them up. There, and now stand.
Yeah.
Can you feel that now?
Now I'm
You're
flying. Yeah. Yeah, now I'm flying. There.
Yeah. So what you can notice here is that if you use that booster, you're pumping it up, then the deeper muscles, they will start relaxing. So when you keep standing here, you will feel that after a short time, you start to get shaky, right? Now you've done yoga for so long, so you probably have more control over. Over this
it was hard for me to let go of the core.
Yeah, because you were kind of fighting against when I.
Yeah, I was using the core. Yeah. But this is true. If you're this man.
Yeah.
Well, then you don't stretch your feet. Then you're just like this. Yeah. No.
Another way to explore this is let's say that you were going to do push-ups. If you do 10 push-ups, right, or 20 or how many you can do, and then you try to plank. Right? You won't be able to, even if you could sustain a plank for 5 minutes after the push-ups, you will probably not be able to sustain that plank.
Because you have used
your boosters to a point where your deep muscles say that, well, someone else is doing the work here. I can go into energy saving mode. The problem with the imbalance that is, when we do yoga, we work on the balance here, right? If you look at someone who their main activity is going to the gym, like I said, with the guy that couldn't sustain his hand above the head for more than 30 seconds at a time, even though he
has these big
huge bust muscles. He had conditioned his body and trained the intelligence of the muscles to a point where, my deep muscles, they no longer need to do anything, right? So then it becomes a risk of injuries, right?
Yeah.
Because some of these deep muscles are also the stabilizers, right? That means that if you do a lot of powerlifting, you use a lot of boosters, lifting heavy weights, right? Then some of the core muscles around your spine, stabilizers around the spine, they are being told all the time that, well, you can relax, you can relax, you can relax until a point where we're talking about when you get old, if you just sit in the chair and your muscles, the tone of your muscles are disappearing. So even if you have huge, beautiful boosters, then the stabilizers, they are not equally strong to support what your boosters are capable of doing, and some of them might just disconnect in a way. So it's also a place where we as yoga teachers can help other professionals, right? So even if they are bodybuilders, if they come to yoga, you can fix a little bit of the damage done. Yeah, other places where you see, so one thing is coming into a warrior one. That's kind of an easy one. You talk about handstand. Then you need a bit more booster activity get in.
And you also need the transition from booster to core.
Yeah.
If you just boost up, and then you have to find your core, because when you boost up, you boost up. Yeah. And then your core needs to kick in at the right place, so it's sort of precision, but this might be another discussion. Yeah.
We will come back to that as well, yeah. So but it's a good point. Everything here interrelates, right? So it's, some of the cores are deep, and that's what we're talking about, right? You do a boosting job to get into a pose during your transition, right? So a typical place would be our vinyasas.
Yeah, when you jump back, you will kind of boost a little and you jump back, and then you have to land in a low chaturanga.
Yeah.
And then it's also again you give a boost, and then you have to land, and then you have to just a mini pulse, and then you have to then you have to kick in your core again to get up. Yeah.
So what are we actually doing when we do this?
We are exchanging from.
Yes. So we are actually toning and conditioning our body, practicing our body to transition the balance in between when do I use a booster, when do I use a deep muscle and a stabilizer. So we're kind of working on balancing.
Yeah, we are working on switching between those two. Yeah.
And what does that do in our daily life?
Well, I have learned from my biomechanic friend a concept called dynamic flexibility. This was what we were talking about yesterday. If you fall, then you can react before you hit the ground, and you can actually either catch yourself, or you can move your body into a position where you will maybe get hurt, but you will not do any damage or injuries.
And also we were talking, what we were talking about on day one of the primary series course, right? If you pick up something from the floor, right?
Yeah.
So the signal to pick this up, which is kind of different if you have a back pain, right? Bend, finger, pick up, right? Whereas if you have trained your body and the intelligence in your muscles, this becomes an automatic thing.
So you're moving from the right places.
I'm going to transition here into using my stabilizers and the core to pick it up.
Yeah, so you are learning to move from the right places and to engage the right muscles for any situation in a way.
And
So So this is,
Switching light bulbs.
yeah,
It's a lot easier for me now, 10, 15 years later, than in my 30s.
yeah,
Even if I probably had much stronger boosters,
same for
early
me.
30s, late 20s.
I was 45 when I took my first push-up.
Oh.
Yeah.
I also, in my practice in jump back and jump through, so in the beginning when I practice asana, I use a lot of booster. But when I learned about the deep muscle and the superficial muscle, especially in jump back, I use core and use psoas more. And I see the jump back and jump through more like a lifting from the inside. It's not just
No.
because you have to come when you come to the floor sequence, you do a lot of jump back and jump through. And in the beginning, when I practice asana, I have like a lot of
me too,
shoulder
me too.
problem. And then when I try to bring the deep muscle, I feel it's much different.
It's complete, yeah.
And then when I notice a student too, so teaching the student about the deep muscle is very important because you can see people using jump back and jump through, they still use a lot of the shoulder and the booster muscle. And try to bring that into the teaching is also helping students in their practice. Building the endurance.
But you see it then with Tina Hastapanamutasana, when you told me, no, because I was also using a booster to lift the leg, and we were talking about that also. When you told, no, you should lift from here, even I knew it, I didn't knew it anyway. What it actually did to my, suddenly I could touch and and I was thinking, wow. And it's just this little muscle. And when I did the third series yesterday, when I lifted up, this flying pigeon, I really felt, okay, if I lift here from my psoas, then I get a little more forward, and it's so much easier to lift the leg. And so that was really eye-opening for me. Yeah. So,
That's a good point, and like we also did in yesterday's course, right? So at first, all of them were using the booster when they were doing Theta Hasta Shasana, right?
Yeah.
So they were thinking that, okay, this is lifting my leg, right?
Yeah.
So there's a huge difference if I lift from using my quadriceps, which is a booster, then, okay, let me use my psoas, which is a deep muscle, right?
When you
I can sustain standing here for much longer, right?
And it's so much easier to change position also, because it is balance, of course it's balance, but it is like you are using the right muscle. So when you open, normally I lose my balance when I open and I need to find it again, but now I was using the deep muscles, so now it was a lot easier. You are learning all the time.
Yeah, so that's a good sample. Quadriceps, the booster, right? It's a mover. The psoas is a deep muscle, but also a mover.
Well, you automatically go deeper also when you are lifting with it. You automatically get your hip into the socket. You automatically do like this, and then you are lifting. So you will automatically create this space also. So,
that is probably also because of where the quadriceps is attached. Right? Because that attachment point, I can also pull it automatically, pull it a little bit out of your hip socket instead of putting
But
it
when I teach Maria about the muscle, you got it right away.
Yeah.
But when I teach others, it's like
No.
it takes a long time before they get
I
there.
have been looking for that clue for many years, and suddenly it was there. So it's not just to be taught Varun talked about it, because I have heard this 1,000 times. It's also that your body understands it.
But when I tell you, you got it right.
No, I
I
got
do
it.
like tell other students, I have to teach them
Yeah,
a few more asana before they get there.
I've been there too, so I've done.
Yeah, and it's, so of course Maria have been, working on toning muscles and training booster versus deep muscles for a long time. A lot of the people who we see here, even not just first year, but second year, third year as well, they still have conditioned their body and their brain to use boosters. Right? So before they actually start understanding, even if we tell them over again and over again, pull your tailbone into the hip socket, right? Lift from here, lift from there. No, they have to do it quite a few times. They have to understand it. Otherwise, they go back to the default, right?
Yeah.
So it's clues that they need over and over again.
Yeah, and then also what actually is helping me when I get these kind of clues that I have heard for 15 years, but I have never taken them in, it is that I actually know there is a muscle there. You need to tell people, but you have a muscle here, and it is working like this, like we are doing now. It is working like this. So if you squeeze it, it will stabilize you, it will get your hip socket in the right place, and it will help you lift up, because this is a stabilizer, it is not. So it is also, it is a 1% theory that you actually need to know that, because not many people can pick that up themselves.
Exactly.
On the back, that's an interesting area with boosters and stabilizers. Right? So, and we will look at the back in one of the other days. But a lot of people are also using a lot of the superficial muscles in the back.
I'm not aware of what is, but we can take that another day, then we can
So
go into that
you
now.
have the Latins,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
That have different layers.
yeah,
We have the rhomboid,
Yeah.
who is on the top.
yeah.
Right? That one is a place where people get very sore very often, right? Because they overuse it instead of using the deeper muscles in the back. And there is also, finding different.
I just learned from Stefan that in the back I use a lot of the superficial muscle.
Yeah.
And when the superficial muscle used a lot, it also muscle good for the spine.
No.
Like the physiotherapist point that to me.
Yeah, and that is also so. That is also when we're talking about the value of finding out, targeting this imbalance, learning, conditioning your body to use superficial boosters when needed, and then switch to use the deeper muscles when the booster is not needed. Because that is actually what is happening with the lower back there, right? Because if you are using the booster, right, then this booster is, it's becoming well toned and all that is good. But it's also telling the deeper muscles there to relax, release, right? And then you lose your stability, and back pain is coming.
So yesterday when you're talking about the super ratio, the one that you have to lengthen in the, before you go to drop back bend and you lengthen that muscle, that is also the deeper the booster, the deep muscle. the muscle help you to lengthen the spine before you doing back bend.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the deep muscle or the booster deep muscle, I guess, because it's close
So
to
there
the
are
spine.
many muscles that help you lengthen the spine. You're probably talking about thinking about the ligament, or because you use the diaphragm as one.
No, the one that you activate from the sacrum on
By
on the
tilting,
sacrum.
yeah, so that's the ligament, right? So
Ah,
when you, when you,
okay.
when you tilt the ligament,
Okay.
right, then you're straightening the spine. And then when you lift,
Oh.
you get a good,
Oh, so that is
Lengthen.
stretching the ligament, not the muscle.
that's the ligament, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So not the muscle. You're using muscles too.
Oh,
So that is the ligament that goes along here and attached down at the end of the sacrum, right? So when your pubic is tilting, it means that your spine becomes straight, right? Just stay here, Alex. With
Okay. So this ligament, no muscle. Okay.
all right, let's move on. Let's do this before we have something to eat. Huh? Antagonists and synergists. This is also a very exciting area. So the agonist is a primary, okay, let me take a step back. So a mover, a muscle, or the muscles that are responsible for moving our body, right? You can take the arm, for example, the biceps, right, is contracting, right? It have an opposite pair, which is the tricep. So when the biceps is contracting, the triceps is stretching, right? And over and opposite, if the tricep is contracting, the biceps is stretching, right? And here can also be, there can be imbalances also here, right? Because this muscle has to understand how much to release at the same time as how much this one is contracting, right? So if both of them were contracting, right, then you wouldn't get far, right? What I think about, and I might be wrong, this is just my thoughts, but there could be areas, we're going to talk a little bit about when the muscle is protecting you from other injuries and so on. So one reason why one of the movers would not be synchronized with the other one would be if you've had a trauma and this one of the muscles are being conditioned for protecting something, then it might resist the stretching when the agonist is contracting. Right? But you might have heard us saying, or other teachers saying, or maybe you even do it yourself. If you are going to do a forward fold, right? Tighten your quadriceps, then your hamstring will release. But there might be a reason why this hamstring is not releasing, even if this is contracting, right? So they might not be working as a good couple, right? They might need some couple therapy, right? Yeah. Agonist is the prime mover. So when I do this, my biceps is the agonist, and the triceps is antagonist. Synergist, it's another concept. So that are muscles that are working in, they're working together for a specific movement or for protecting something. So a sample could be, yeah, if I'm going to straighten my leg, right? It's my quadriceps that do the work. But you might also notice that there are other muscles around the knee which becomes activated, right? So that might be, or it's not might be, that is synergy movements, right?
Yeah.
So they work together to perform something. It could be to stabilize the joints that we talked about with the knee. It could also be to refine movements. You know, if you're doing a specific, one thing is the arm up and down, right? But it's not necessarily going to go up and down, right? Maybe it's going to go a little bit out.
Yeah.
And then it's working in synergy with some other muscles here, right? A good sample would be if you do, this, right? So this movement here is working with your pec or your chest muscles, right? But it's also using shoulder muscles for that very same movement.
I just have some insights. So in second series, I'm still working on that pose. So someday I can do it, someday I cannot do. So the Maruyasana, the one that you balance and lift the leg. So I think bringing the concept of antagonist and synergy is important, because in that pose you want to lift the leg, right? And so it means that you use a hamstring for the moving of the leg bringing up. It also means that in the front of the thigh, you need to lengthen so that you can shorten the hamstring so that the leg moving up. And then because you balance here, so you have to use the core muscles. So you have to like round, and you use a lot of strength in the front so that you can balance. And it also means that you are stretching for the back. And if for some reason we both working in the back and in the front, it's like wrestling with each other, and it's harder for us to come into the point when it's balanced. I'm still working on the pose though. On the good day, okay, I can lift the phone. On the bad day, it's still like collapse. But that's just bringing to my mind that that is how it works. Antagonist and synergies of that movement. Yeah, in the front, working on the front and stretching the back, and in the thigh, working on the hamstring to lift the leg up and lengthen quadricep, and in the front thigh. Yeah. But if we work in both the hamstring and the quadricep, it's like, shuffling with each other.
Yeah, and that is a way to stabilize your leg, right?
But how is your inside? Because you do that pose a lot.
I do that pose? Yeah, so I think we are coming to, there are some slides at the end where we're talking about the kinetic chains. Just a quick clue, the pinky, the muscles in the feet are something that you might use for that, right? Tightening the whole leg is something that you would do. So, yeah. It's also related to the synergist there, right? Because they have to perform a specific task in as companions, right? The first point on the slide here is to distribute force, for example. So there, to keep your leg straight and up of the air, right? They have to distribute the work. Another example of something similar is, if I lift my leg, right? I might mainly use, so I might use the psoas, right? Well, actually, the psoas is the antagonist here. But if I lift my leg back, right? I'm using my glute and the mini glute and the one below, right? And I'm also using my hamstring. Right? So the two of them have to distribute the workload on lifting my leg. Right? And one might be stronger than the other, right? So there's like a fine mechanism there for the muscles.
Okay, so you work with the psoas, the glutes, and then the hamstring. Okay, that makes sense.
And the hamstring is also, it's not one, it's two, right? So if you feel under your thigh here, you find two of these strings. Right? If you put your finger in there, then you can kind of separate the two. Right? These are also two muscles that work in relation to each other. Right? And it also means that, okay, we slide, or hopefully we slide, right? Depending on lubrication and conditioning. But that means that, if I lift my leg out on one side, I might use one of them more than the other. Right? So depending on the angle here, one might be contracting more than the other, right? To make that fine-tuned movement in which I'm doing. Right? That's talking about synergists. So in yoga, we also want to facilitate this synergist relationship, like with the hamstring. Right? We do poses where we're out with the feet, so we're stretching the hamstring like this, right? So the two of them comes a little bit like this, right? And then we come down and we do a forward fold. We stretch them as a pair. And then we do a forward fold in Prasarita Padottanasana, right? And we're stretching them unevenly again. But this is also to make sure that they work as a couple. Right?
Yeah, and maybe they also have a job when you are transferring from your boosters to your core. That is, you have two synergies. You have one muscle and then you have the synergist. Maybe the synergist take a bigger part of the job just in the transition, and then you find your new stabilizing balance.
This is a place where you might see runners have, because they are always working with these in a pair, right? Because you have the same movement. That means that they are not conditioned to work as independent, right? So you might find people in your room that are, could be runners, they could be doing nothing at all, but you can find people who have quite nice forward fold, right? But when they come to a forward fold with open legs, they struggle, right? You might also find people who, in a forward fold, right, they find a hard stretch on the outside, but not on the inside, right? Right. Anything else here, or? Is it time for break?
For now it's clear, but there are so many combinations and so many.
Yeah, maybe
Well,
we get some thoughts over
yeah,
lunch. Maybe we revisit it. I think we have
it's
plenty of time today.
Yeah.
Look like you're still having insights.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about how to distribute evenly when you're stretching the group of hamstring.
Mhm.
So it's a good thing to, because I'm just know how to activate the hamstring, but I haven't thought of activate the different hamstring there.
No, the inner and the, yeah. But it is too. Yeah.
This is so it's especially interesting discussing in relation to passion, right? Because it's the fascia between them that make them slide, right? So if that is not lubricated, or if the sliding is not facilitated, this is what happens. They become one instead of two. Other muscles that would work as synergists here would be, we would have abductors, and these are also attached in together with the hamstring, right? So in a forward fold, right, you would also stretch an abductor at the same time as you are stretching the hamstrings. So if you have a tight abductor and a tight inner hamstring, right? Then your outer hamstring might be looser.
I think this part is very important in yoga.